Hi, Dr. Allison Felt here, and I wanted to share a little philosophy that I have. I've been working with a lot of pregnant women, as I usually do, and what really has been the highlight of a lot of conversations lately is talking about like going into labor naturally and on your own. So without being induced, without all the extra causes or all the extra things that we do to go into labor. So one thing that I think is really important to consider when you are planning to have a delivery, and you have your due date, right? So like, say you're due May 23rd, that was the due date with my son. And a lot of women will work up until that exact time. So you work up until, especially with your first baby, you work up until that delivery date in order to have the maximum of time of maternity leave, get as much money as you possibly can before you have the baby, and then you don't have to waste any of your maternity leave not spending that with your baby. Now, I totally get that. That is exactly to a T what I did with my daughter, Chloe. And the thing about that is when you're working up until your due date, you don't actually take the time you're in hyper mode. You're closing things out. You're getting ready to leave and be on delivery. You're probably mentally super checked out, but your body isn't resting and relaxing. You're still responding to emails. You're still, whatever you do, you're still in that mode. And when you're in that mode, we tend to activate more of our sympathetic nervous system. So that's where you get like the fight or flight nervous system activation. So like if it's best described as if a bear was chasing you, your body would be in that like active, hyperactive, reactive state. And in that state, you can't go into labor. There's no way your body's going to cascade into labor when a bear is chasing you. And so it's really important to think about this. And as silly as it sounds, to me, it's my personal experience, and it's also what I see women doing. So for, your body, when you go into labor, has to be in this sympathetic state in order for your body to feel like it's safe to even go into labor. And if you're working up until your due date, there's just not time for that. Now, some women, yes, it works and it happens and you're able to maintain that. But for a lot of women, and most of the women I meet and have been associated with, that's just not the case. So I want to give a little personal story here. When I was pregnant with my first daughter, Chloe, who's now 3.5, I was due June 9th, or I was due sometime in June 10th or 9th or something. And I was like, well, I better work up to my due date so I can have like maximum maternity leave with Chloe. I had like secretly always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but financially we couldn't afford that. So I was like, give me all the time I can have with my baby. And so I worked up until I think the day before my due date. I had to go home early because like I wasn't feeling like I could treat patients still. So I went home, and then I didn't go into labor on my due date, and I didn't go into work either. And then I had the next day and the next day, and I was 9 days overdue, and my water broke. 9 days overdue. I was strep B positive, so I had to go to the hospital and start IV antibiotics right away. And of course, my body didn't cascade into the natural rhythm of labor. My contractions weren't strong enough, so I had to go through the Pitocin route, and that's not fun in my opinion. Pitocin stinks. So. And so then I ended up having a vaginal delivery with Chloe, and I was, happy I could have that and was able to go through that. But if you can avoid the Pitocin and avoid that whole situation, then I would highly recommend it. I thought that having my water break first was actually what I wanted, when in all reality, it was definitely not. And so, I'm fortunate that I got to have the vaginal delivery after having the Pitocin, but my doctor did say at a certain point she thought I was going to have a C-section. So I think that when you have those extras, a lot of people don't want that. A lot of people just want to go into labor naturally without being assisted. And truly that's probably what's best for the body, and probably what has the best outcome. But so then I want to give you a little like caveat to that. So my son, who is, he's now 1.5, he is, I took about 3 weeks off prior to his delivery. I, again, was checked out and just was like, I am going to rest and like relax and just let my body try and kick into this naturally. I still did a ton of things around the house, but I didn't have the stress of work looming over me. And that was amazing. So when my due date came, I actually went into labor on my due date. And the difference between the two labors was so substantial, and actually like going into labor on your due date was made possible for my body because of the time I took off before. So I think my body felt like even though I was chasing around a busy toddler, and my body was able to cascade into the parasympathetic response and go into labor. And I was fortunate not to need Pitocin for him. So that is just my story, and I want to share it because I find it comes up in every conversation I have with prenatal moms that are having physical therapy, as every pregnant mom should, in order to optimize their bodies for delivery. So I wanted to share that story, as I think it's super important when you start to prepare your calendar and look at what your maternity leave is going to look like, or whether you're going to stay home or not, to really consider that decompressing time, that relaxation time. I just think that's so important in preparing for the optimal delivery that you're going to have. So thank you for listening. I'm so excited that I could share this information with you, and I hope it helps you have a dream delivery. Take care.